Welcome back, everyone, with another episode of Demystifying Tech Careers. So today we have the great Alexander Jordan, who's currently the Senior Business Development Representative at Rapid7, which is basically a fancy word for a really experienced salesperson. He went to Bucknell University, and today we're going to dive into what it's like and what's kind of a journey of a salesperson look like. Let's start with talking about your high school career. Let's tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So again, thank you for having me. I appreciate you taking the time. So I went to high school in a little town in southeast Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And I went to Central Bucks East High School, where I did a lot of things. I played football, wrestled, was on the track team. I did a lot of things growing up to try and keep my mind fresh. I get bored pretty easily. So I did that, and I had a lot of extracurriculars on the side with leadership positions at school. So I would say I had a pretty good high school experience.
Gotcha. Wow. So I was, I don't know if some people balance things differently whenever they're like in high school. Some are complete nerds and some are a complete jock. So like, what were you?
I would, if you were to look at me, you'd probably say I was a jock. I disagree. I was a huge Dragon Ball Z fan.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would say I was a jock. Played 3 sports all throughout high school, but like I said earlier, I had my hands involved in some other things as well. I was president of my county's Jack and Jill Incorporated Corporation of America, which was a African American leadership organization to develop entrepreneurial leadership skills in African American kids all across the country. And I was my county's president for that, and it's to this day one of the most important parts of my life. But I would call myself a jock because I'd spend 5-6 days a week training for football. I would watch film all the time. So that was, I guess I'll say jock.
Well, one of the biggest thing for a lot of people who play sports is because they have such high level of resiliencies later on in life because, and I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan too. It's all about getting back up one more time and training to get better.
Yeah.
So at the point in your sort of like high school career, and you mentioned learning entrepreneurship and a whole bunch of things, which a lot of people don't have access to. So, when you are given a lot of these resources and knowledge, did you sort of have a good fixed path in mind, what you want to be in the future when you were in high school?
A little bit. So I would say yes and no to that regard. So one thing that I do credit Jack and Jill for doing an amazing job at was exposing me to multiple industries. I was never particularly great at science and math, so STEM careers were never really going to be the thing that I was going to pursue. But they exposed me to engineering, entrepreneurship, international business, politics, anything that you wanted to learn. There were avenues and people that you could talk to via pretty expansive networks that would sit down and say, hey, this is my journey, and here's something that you might want to look into. And I recognize that that's not something that a lot of people have access to, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But it did help me find out, hey, when I was 15 years old, I want to be doing X. But on the flip side of things, it showed me that things I don't want to do, which is honestly just as valuable, to be quite honest.
What don't you want to do?
So one thing that I realized I wasn't going to do was my brother, his name is Hamilton. He is almost fluent in Japanese. And when I was in high school, I wanted to take Mandarin because he was doing international business, and he's to this day like one of my biggest idols.
It's really cool.
So I was like, okay, so I'm like, I'm gonna do that. So I take a Mandarin class, and I was in so over my head because I took Spanish growing up. I took, Romance languages, and I thought it was going to be pretty similar. And then I found out there wasn't an alphabet. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do this. And then I just ended up not quite being my thing. And then I explored a little bit more through Jack and Jill that I didn't quite want to do international business. So then I was able to cross that off the list. And as time went on, Feel free to stop me if I'm going a little bit too far ahead.
No worries. Keep
But
going.
yeah, but I remember when the Trayvon Martin case happened in the United States, and I was blown away by the case and some of the things people were saying about the young man at the time, who I believe was only 13 to 15 years old. So then I made a promise to myself. I was like, okay, let's see how long I can go each day without seeing a story on the news about another African American being, hurt by the police or being disenfranchised, or God forbid, something even worse happening. And I went 38 days without till I was able to have a day where I didn't see something. And to me, that was way too long.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'm going to be the change in that. So I decided I was going to study political science in college. And that was the main thing that propelled me towards my studies in the future.
Gotcha. Well, before even all of that, you got accepted into Bucknell University. Like, why did you decided to apply to those schools? And how many schools do you apply to? And what's sort of like the mentality behind picking the college?
So my path's a little bit, it's a bit odd. I only applied to Bucknell. I only applied to one university. I was in a unique position because I got recruited out of high school to play college football.
Okay.
And I had a lot of offers from various different places, and Bucknell was the first place to offer me. And I, like any kid, did all of the exploring I needed to do, because it's more of a commitment than 4 years. You're setting yourself for the next 60 years, 80 years, hopefully 100 years. So it's a really big decision to make. And the reason I went with Bucknell was because one of the things that is super important to me is how someone can relate to me as an individual, and things that we are willing to do with one another to push someone forward, push ourselves forward. And I'll never forget the reason why I picked Bucknell. So at this point in time, I probably had 10 offers or so. And it was, I believe, June going into my senior year. And I was going through a bunch of options. And quite honestly, I had forgotten about Bucknell. And so I sat down and was going through some of the pros and cons that I had made about colleges I wanted to attend. And I was like, I forgot about Bucknell. So I called, I know, right? It feels pretty bad. So I called up the head coach at the time, whose name was Joe Susan, to this day remains one of my greatest mentors. And he says, come on down, we'll do another visit. And this was probably the third visit I took to Bucknell at this time, but I hadn't been there in 4 or 5 months. So I got there, and he was there. There were 2 other coaches to show me around the campus, and my position coach was also there. And when any time in college football during the summer, they're doing a lot of recruiting. They're going to camps, seeing other high school prospects at schools. They're doing a lot of traveling. And my head coach, Joe Susan, put his trip on hold to go see his daughters in New Jersey to come talk to me for an hour before it was time for me to go on the visit. And then my position coach, again, another fantastic mentor of mine, his name is Matt Borich, pushed off hold going to Tennessee to meet with me as well. And it was at that moment where I was like, these men put all this stuff on hold to make sure that my experience was valuable and to ensure that I had the information that I needed to make an informed decision. Never at any point in time was I pressured to make a decision on that visit or any time prior. And it was at that moment where I was like, these are some pretty incredible people that I wanted to be around. So then I asked to meet with, the men that I was going to be playing with, my teammates, and they had the exact same mindset. So I committed right there on the spot, and I haven't looked back. And it was, to this day, it remains to be one of the greatest decisions I've ever made.
That's awesome. So, okay, to go back to sort of like your experience with the whole Trayvon Martin thing. Was that the biggest decision point as to why you decided to go to political science?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So there were two things that made me want to do that. So the first one was being the Trayvon Martin case. And the second one was the fact that when I was at home, when I was going through that experience, I would do a lot of searching to find out about, Black representatives in politics that were doing great work to push forward racial equality in the modern United States. I was looking at previous writers and, poets to try and get some understanding, because quite frankly, as a 15-year-old, especially as a Black 15-year-old, one of the things that you understand is you're not like the other kids, but you can't quite understand why society views you that way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn as much as I could. So it was a combination between that singular experience and then me reading further into racial dynamics in the United States. So to be quite honest, yes, that is the reason why I wanted to study political science, because at the time I thought it was going to be the best avenue for me to change that narrative.
Gotcha. So I see on your LinkedIn that you decided to become a music director at one point on a campus radio station. So, all these things kind of doesn't, connect well, because in one aspect, you're really into sport. Two, you're really into political science. And then all of a sudden, boom, music. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I get bored easily, man. I get really bored easily. But music has, it's been sort of my saving grace. And it's also been a way for me to explore, like, I'm a very introspective person. So when I find music that allows me to explore that side of me, I go fully into it. So to go backwards a little bit, when I was a kid, one thing that I would do is I would, like, if I found a song by an artist that I would like, I'd listen to that song and be like, this is pretty good. And then I'd find out what album was that song on. And then I'd listen to that entire album. And then if I liked that album, I would download the entire discography. Now, being a kid downloading all that music in the early 2000s obviously fried my computer. So I had to get several external hard drives in order to hold my library. Yeah. But I loved going in and just learning about an artist. I loved picking things out, like different allegories or metaphors they were using in their music, and the storytelling through various melodies. It was all so enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
So when I got to college, I needed something to do outside of football and just regular school that I could throw my passion into in a different avenue. So Bucknell's radio station, WVBU, the voice of Bucknell University is what we called ourselves, was having opening positions for different positions on the radio. So I applied to be the music director, and my job was to take whatever was students felt would represent Bucknell University, and I would curate that on the radio. I would play students, I would have live shows where kids would come in and they would play their instruments and talk about their music experience. I would conduct interviews every now and then. So it was another avenue for me to explore another side of me.
So I feel like there were a lot of things that you were interested in, and you just want to explore every single option as much as possible. And so, yeah, I guess by that point, you're doing a whole bunch of different things. At which point were you started to think about, what's my future career is going to look like after I graduate?
Sure. So there was a couple points where I really was like sitting down and kind of panicking about what I wanted for the next 50 years of my life to look like.
Which year was that in college?
I want to say that started early junior year. Junior year is when that started. Yeah. So I was sitting down, and the reason why I decided not to go into political science was I had an externship experience that I didn't really enjoy. And then as time went on with just the political dynamics of the United States being so divisive, it started to be a bit exhausting. And I wrote a research paper my sophomore year about the effects that household income could potentially have on one's political party affiliation. And to be, at a very quick note, the relationship is not statistically significant. But I did find out that there were other extraneous variables that led me to decisions as to why people had the political views they did. And it was extremely enlightening. But I found that it was just exhausting to me, and it just wasn't, I didn't find joy in it. So I was like, what do I do? So the thing that I decided to do is I decided to not stress about it and just chase my passions and see where it landed me. And it was an excellent experience. So one of the things that I did after exploring my time in music is my uncle was actually a DJ. He still is a DJ and producer himself. So music was nothing new to me, and mixing was nothing new. So I went to Guitar Center. I bought myself a DJ controller. I learned it. I had a few paid gigs, got a bigger, better one for more professional use. And I started doing gigs. I started doing stuff at bars, sponsored events, university events, birthday parties, graduation parties, you name it. Anything I get my hands on, I did it. And what that taught me was being able to put myself out there. It was a bit of entrepreneurship like we had talked about earlier. I had my own business. It wasn't an LLC, but I had developed my own website, business cards, promotional stickers, anything to get my name out there. And that was what made me realize that if I could find something that I liked and something that I would do quite frankly for free, and I could find a way to monetize that, it wouldn't be a job. Because one thing that I had heard at that time was, I'm a really big fan of Steve Harvey. And one of the things Steve Harvey said was everyone thinks you need $1 million idea. And the truth is you don't. You need a $10 idea that you can get exponentially better at. So my $10 idea was, excuse me, I know music. Someone would pay me to be the music director at the radio station. I get made maybe $10 an hour. I wasn't getting paid, but I was working for free. But that was my $10 idea. And then I made it a $100 idea by buying a tiny little dinky used controller from Guitar Center. And then I made it a $1,000 idea by getting better equipment and putting myself out there, and then so on and so forth. So once I realized that was the avenue, now I just needed to find another way to monetize it with my education. And that wasn't all that hard.
Oh, that's really interesting. This is I'm trying to connect the dots here, but it seems like you have this sport experience, and then you found love with music, and then you were super interested in political science. But the fact of the matter is, you were so overwhelmed with every single thing that's going on. And when you were talking about it, I thought about a study that talked about how if you were born in a poor Black family, it would take you 2 more generations in order to actually move from the lower class to the middle class. And I was like, that's insane. That's like another 200 years. And and then I guess you just, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's, and I have this mentality too, is like at some point you just care so much about the world, you're trying to change the world. But then you made a decision to sort of just pull back and focus on yourself, and just decided to do the things that you love. And that gave root to the entrepreneurship journey that you had. And that's really powerful.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. Is I think a lot of young kids have that idea. Once you start having a little bit of knowledge in your pocket, you feel like Superman, Superwoman, you can go out and you can change the world. And truth be told, you can. But every now and then, you just need to realize that first and foremost, you need to be able to take care of yourself. And I wasn't happy doing things with politics, but it didn't mean that I couldn't push myself forward. It didn't mean that I couldn't be some sort of aspect of change. I have teammates on my sales team right now, which I'm sure we'll dive into later. But on my sales team right now, that I love mentoring. I love working with them every single week. I love that aspect. And changing lives on a small scale, changing lives on a big scale. Really, the important thing is that you're being the change that you want to see in the world.
Yeah, I think being able to zoom out, zoom in at the right moment definitely helped. So I guess let's talk about sort of the next step in your journey. So after this whole entrepreneurship experience, when you were just become this go-getter, because prior to that, a lot of decisions that were made for you wasn't actually coming from you searching. People were coming to you. And then this was the first time that you had taken your own agency in your own hand and just go for it. And so I guess at this point in time, was that junior or senior year?
Yeah, about junior, senior year.
Okay, cool. What is your first professional experience? I see that you started to become an intern at Coca-Cola, but but it's somehow also connected to Bucknell University. So can we talk a little bit about what that experience from the starting point to, I guess, what you did there?
Yeah. So my first professional experience before I was a Coca-Cola marketing intern at Bucknell University, I was a future financial advising intern for AXA Car Barth Associates in Philadelphia, here in Pennsylvania, where I am right now. And the way I got that was, again, you hit the nail right on the head where, as an athlete, a lot of times in life, people are coming to you, you put out film, coaches come through, they recruit you, and that's your life. And then after that, you realize that you have to put yourself out there. It's not a bad thing, but it's just a change of perspective. So, but to still be on that football note, I was part of the Bucknell Athletic Leadership organization, and I met a gentleman by the name of Brandon Friday, who is a financial advisor at First Trust Financial Resources here in Pennsylvania, and gave me an internship after a few interviews. And one of the things he asked me was, you studied political science, you also studied sociology. Why do you think sales would be the thing that you could be good at, or why is something that you want to explore? And I was totally honest with him. I told him, I was like, to be honest, I just follow things that I really enjoy doing with skills that I think I'm very good at. I think I'm a great speaker. I think I'm passionate. I think I'm a go-getter. And truth be told, I don't know what I want to do. So I'm willing to put my foot forward, take a risk, and explore this new avenue that I know nothing about. Yeah. And he respected that. And we went through the entire internship program, and sales has this sort of what's what I'm looking for? Sales stigma. Has this stigma. Yeah. Has this stigma that door to door, and you're slimy, you're just trying to get every cent out of the person that you're talking to. And that's not entirely true, because the best thing that he ever taught me was people don't buy, your product necessarily. People don't buy your statistics. They don't buy anything that you can put in front of them on a sheet of paper. They buy you as an individual. And if you can communicate that you are there to help, and that you are genuine, and that you are a good person, and if that's truly in your heart, the rest will do itself. The product will sell itself. So when he gave that to me, because one of the things he talked about was he would sell 403Bs, 401Ks, retirement plans, Roth IRAs, and help people save for retirement. And he is like of the mindset that I am doing the best I can to ensure these people who come from families like mine are set up for years and years and years in the future. When they can't work anymore, I want to ensure that they are comfortable and that they are living happily and healthily. And that was, I was like, okay, so sales isn't just him trying to get every single cent out. He really believes in what he's doing. So that was the first professional experience I had, which propelled me into some of the other things that I did throughout my career. And the reason I was able to be the Coca-Cola marketing intern at Bucknell was because my time as an athlete, unfortunately, was cut pretty short because I took too many injuries. Yeah. I had every injury that you could pretty much think of. I broke my leg. I had 5 concussions, separated both my shoulders. I'm still walking today. I still can't really keep this cat down, but I eventually had to make the decision to walk away from the game of football. And I was thinking to myself, what can I do now? I don't want to just travel on the bus and just take up another seat. I need to do something of value. Right. So I started coaching, and that really wasn't my thing either. So I talked to my coach, Joe Susan, who great mentor, who guided me through this difficult path. And he says, oh, there's some internships that you can look into that use athletics as a vehicle. So check that out. And I ended up applying and getting 2 different internships. I got the executive internship for the Office of Athletics and Recreation, where I oversaw all of athletics and did a lot of marketing. And then I was also the Coca-Cola marketing intern for Bucknell, where I was going to basketball games, football games, and just promoting different sponsors, whether it be local vendors, whether it be restaurants. Like I did a lot of promotion for Domino's, obviously Coca-Cola, Jimmy John's, Jersey Mike's, everything. So I got real firsthand experience in marketing, which has different aspects that bleed into sales a little bit. Yeah. And then one of those things was I would go to students and I would try to recruit people, say, hey, we're running this promotion where you can get a t-shirt, automatic entry to playoff games. If a game is sold out, you'll be guaranteed a seat, and just using my abilities as a negotiator, my abilities as a communicator to get people to commit to an event. And that's when I was fully able to put in practice the things that I had learned in the summer prior.
You know, marketing and sales sometimes goes hand in hand, but people just don't
They do.
realize how different they are. And sometimes if an organization is really bad, they don't let those two sides communicate. But, you know, sometimes, what I guess your internship, those two sides connect for you, which understanding marketing makes you a good salesperson.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm guessing when you were working as a marketing intern, like you didn't really understand how everything sort of connect, like how each department were connecting. And so, you know, your experience after this was immediately Rapid7. How do you land this?
Yeah, you're right. I had no idea how things worked on a massive organizational level, but I had some experience that I could tangibly say, this is what I can bring to the table. So again, one of the things that I would chase were me feeling like people were doing things to help me and then I could do things to help them. I wasn't chasing a particular industry. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So
yeah, Rapid7 is a super esoteric industry, cybersecurity software. I'm just like, straight out of college. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Like, there's not a lot of choices there. Like, how do you decide it on Rapid7 as well?
Yeah, I mean, studying Hobbes didn't really protect me to communicate incident response plans. But so I had a friend in college. She ended up not wanting to work in sales. She got a different job offer in New York. And she was like, hey, I was talking to this company Rapid7, which my dad did a lot of work with on a professional level. I took a job offer somewhere else. I know you're very open to various opportunities. Is that something that you want to explore? And I said, yeah, sure, let's see where this goes. I have nothing to lose. So I get on the phone and I started talking with Rapid7, and it ended up being a sales job. And they say, how are you best at sales? And I said, well, actually, I have some pretty good first-hand experience, both in financial advising and at Buisness University, where I would do marketing and student outreach to get people to show up to games. And they really loved that. And so I got another interview, and again, it went the same way. It went great. And one of the main things I wanted to ensure was, do you guys have the backs of your employees? When all chips are down, when everything is going to the fan, do you have the backs of your employees? And they said, absolutely yes. And the way that I judge people is not based off of what they tell me, or not even necessarily what they do, but off of patterns. And the pattern that I saw was every single person that I talked to, everyone talked to four or five different people at Rapid7, and they all gave me the same sort of vibe. So I knew I was in good hands. And then I went to Boston to go do an in-person interview, which I've only been to Boston one other time in my life. It was super new to me. But I got there and it felt like home. It felt like everybody was working together. It felt like teamwork was a very big dynamic that was valued. So to me, it was a no-brainer. I was like, you know, I can do sales really well. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something I know I can succeed in. But to be honest, I think I could succeed wherever I go. So for me, I want to be around people who have the same values as I do, and people that are ultimately going to want to work together, who are going to want to collaborate ideas. So the rest is history. I signed for Rapid7. I've been an employee ever since, and I haven't looked back. I love it here.
That's really awesome. Like, to your story, your journey has always been centralized surrounding people. And that is very interesting in regards to sales, because the stigma, it's all about shoving stuff down people's throat, but it's more like you have just indicated that the decision that you've made throughout your life is all depending on the people that you talk to and learning the pattern, which is really interesting. It's not who they are, it's not what they do, it's the pattern that you see. That's a really good insight. And so I guess at your job, let's dive into some sort of like the things that people don't know about sales. Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day? What is your goal, and sort of like the activities and tasks that's associated with it? So don't even leave out the the obvious stuff. The obvious stuff is something that people don't think about.
Sure. Yeah, I'll talk about things that I wish I had known going in. So basically, throughout my day, I live, breathe, eat, and sleep in Salesforce. What I do is I get various lead queues where people interact with different marketing pieces, whether it be white papers that clients or prospects have read. It could be events that they have attended, webcasts that they've watched, demos from our website that they have watched directly, or trials that they've downloaded from our website. And all that interaction, they put in their contact information like emails, phone numbers, their job description, where they work, and that gets queued into Salesforce. And then I'll spider through that, learn about somebody, and then reach out saying, hey, this is Alex calling from Rapid7. I saw XYZ thing that you checked out. We're doing a lot of cybersecurity things like vulnerability management and incident response, which for those listening who don't know what that is, the way I like to describe it to my people who don't necessarily know tech is, one thing is we do to help you after you've been hacked. Another thing is things we do before you get hacked. So that's one thing I wish I would have known prior to going into Rapid7. And I talk about things that we do to help protect other customers that we have. And hopefully it lands in the next step. We bring people to some of my senior leadership and we try and get folks the help that they need. And I work with lots of people from various industries. I've worked with national or global accounts where they have a couple dozen thousand employees, 20,000 employees. I worked with municipalities, counties, cities, state governments, federal agencies, anybody that's willing to talk. And that's one of the great things about the cybersecurity industry is we're living in a world where everybody is going to need it. So much of what you have lives on the cloud, and a lot of your information is quite honestly pretty vulnerable. So doing whatever we can on our end to ensure that people are protected is of the utmost importance. And that's what brings me back to one of the values that I learned back in my days at First Trust with my manager at the time, Brandon, was about people buying you. Because the truth is, Rapid7's, and this is going to be a shameless plug, our Rapid7's tools are great. They're Gartner, Forrester ranked, they're awesome. But the reality is there are a lot of really good cybersecurity companies that do a lot of great work and have exceptional employees just like we do. But the way that I think Rapid7 looks at the industry is not how much money can we get from you, but what can we do to ensure that you are protected? Because at an organizational level, you have tons of people that you need to protect. You need to protect your clients first and foremost, like your customers, and you need to be able to protect your employees, because employees are often the people that are quite honestly on the front lines when companies are breached. So being able to communicate the fact that we are here for you, not your money, is one of the things I think Rapid7 does extremely well, and that's why I feel at home.
That's really awesome. I mean, I think that's the thing that people don't get about sales. It's not just about making the commission, making the transaction. It's actually really thinking about the things that you're selling, the things that you're trying to get out there, and really being bought into your organization. Like, people can sell T-shirt all they want, or people can sell just anything. But if they don't even like the product itself, I think it's going to be hard. And so you really bought into not only the mission of the company, but also the people, and finally the product itself, which all comes together. So I guess let's give an example about some of your failures. And I think that's one of the things that that really teaches people lessons. Like, what was an example where you messed up, and what was some of the lessons that was learned from that?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. That was one of the main things that football taught me. Is football obviously teaches you hard work, it teaches you resilience, teaches you toughness. But when people ask me, what's the best thing football taught you? And this is going to sound weird at first, but it taught me how to lose. I have a lot of losses in my life so far that I am so grateful that I've had, whether it be professionally, athletically, psychologically, emotionally, different various journeys that I've gone throughout my life. I am so grateful for those. And the way that I learned this philosophy in my life is I go by Charlemagne the God, who is a radio host for Hot 97, and he has this book called Black Privilege: Opportunity Comes to Those Who Create It. And in the book, he talks about there are no losses, only lessons, which in the mind of me at the time, it was like 19. I'm like, I don't believe you. So I read it. And his main philosophy was that so long as you learn from your mistakes and apply them, you cannot lose. So as an example, one of the things that I would do with my time as a BDR was I had experienced some pretty decent success early on. And then I went an entire month without creating a single sales opportunity, which was awful. It was a terrible experience. And I was every night I would go home and I would scan through my notes, product knowledge, and try and, so maybe there's something I'm missing. I would read the Little Red Book of Sales. I would do every single thing that I could, trying to get myself out of what I thought at the time was a slump. And again, at the time, I felt like I was losing, which at the end of it, I was like, but I learned something. I learned something about myself, and I learned something about sales. So I'm extremely grateful that I went that time where I wasn't able to succeed, because I learned that I am resilient and that I can get through anything that's put in front of me. It may take time, but I have that ability to push forward. It taught me to not panic. It taught me to take a step back, try and relax, breathe, and be able to unplug from work sometimes. That way my mind is fresh for when I can go back. And it also taught me to always be proactive about expanding my knowledge, whether it be of sales, the cybersecurity industry, internal products, people, process, technology, whatever it may be. All of those failures that I had, because I remember going through my stats throughout the month. I'm a very statistics-driven person. And every day we go in and we talk about how many dials we made, how many emails that we sent. And throughout the month of July, I had made a total of 1,700 dials. I had dialed the phone 1,700 times, and I hadn't had a single sales opportunity. And that honestly made me want to tear up. I was like, this is terrible. But learning that failure taught me to realize that every single failure that I had was pushing me one step closer to where I was able to succeed. So no losses, only lessons.
That's really great. Hit record again, wait 5 seconds, and then we're going to continue where we left off. I'm on the free plan, so you only have 40 minutes. So now we're good for the next 20. Okay, well, that's really awesome. So a lot of people don't understand failures when they're young. And I guess until you have failed so much that you either give up forever, and that's not ever a good path, or you are just like, okay, like what the hell can I do now? And you were mostly paying attention to some of the reason why you failed, and then that propels you to get back up. So yeah, I guess, would you have any advice for people who are looking to start in tech? Maybe even just some potential reasons as to what personality trait or what type of things that people would need to have in order to excel as a sales role in the tech company?
Sure. So I got 3 monitors on right now, but I'm going to look directly into the camera for this one. You do not need to be a science or a math person to work in tech. That would be my main thing. Was when I was in college, I was like, okay, I'm gonna work in tech, but I don't know anything about cybersecurity, engineering, or any of that stuff. And there's a lot of different career paths that you can take. There's people like me who are in sales. There are people who are in marketing, people who are in project and product management. There are people who are in public relations. There are people who are obviously corporate level execs who work in finance. There are people who work in legal. And all of these teams interact a lot more than you would have thought. So college has this way of streamlining your education, which is great because it teaches you to be good at one particular thing. But that shouldn't be the thing that defines you necessarily, because
Mm-hmm.
I was in college and I was a double major in political science and sociology. And the only things that you really know about careers in those fields are, okay, I can go into law, I can go into PR, I can do quantitative analysis, but other than that, what do I do? But the truth is that what you are studying for is you are studying for other jobs that are going to encompass the skills that you have learned in that particular major, not necessarily the major itself. Now, that's not to say that you won't be going into those fields, because if you want to study biology to get into med school, you will do that as long as you put forth the effort. But if you study something like I did, like political science, what you're learning is you're learning deep analysis, you're learning how to look at a problem, solve it, you are learning how to communicate, you are learning how to work with team members, you are learning so many valuable skills that are going to make you an asset to so many different organizations. Mm-hmm. So as long as you can look at something and say, hey, I may not have the experience, I know I don't have the experience, but one thing that I do have are the skills to be a valuable member of this team. And then that can take you anywhere. I don't care what it is that you want to be able to do.
That is very powerful. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And I think your journey is super incredible. And I think it teaches people to find valuable mentors, first of all. 2 is to explore the things that you love and enjoy. And 3 is to not get so bogged down by whatever it is happening in the world, but actually work on yourself and having your own agency to pave your own path. And then I guess the last piece about your story is just about people. I think that has been, not only the people who helped you, but the fact that you wanted to help people. And that has led you to where you are today. And that is very, very powerful. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Do you have any sort of like last message? It doesn't necessarily have to be involved about your career path, just anything that you want to say out for the audience out there, especially with the current environment and everything like that.
Sure. So I'll say 2 things. I'll say the first thing to touch on what you said, and then the current situation that we're in today. So firstly, if I had advice to anybody listening to this, or anybody younger than me, someone who doesn't know exactly what they want to do, is to just, all you really have to do is, I'm a Philadelphia Sixers fan, so I trust the process, as crazy as that sounds. Follow the things that you love, follow the things that you're passionate about, follow the things that are going to bring you happiness, and then navigate those. And I really do believe that once you do that, you will fall directly into place. And one of the things that I've learned throughout my life is that everything that happens to you in life, everything that you do, and every person that you meet is in your life for a very specific purpose and lesson. And that experience won't be over, and that person will not leave until that lesson is learned, and they will not stay a second longer until that lesson is learned. So whether that be a failure, whether that be a success, a career path, whatever it may be, try and learn as much as you can from everything and follow the things that make you passionate, and the rest will fall into place. And then the second thing, so at the time that we're recording this, especially because we're talking via Zoom, is we're in quarantine, and being someone as introspective as I am, I get inside of my head a lot. And it's important to take a step back and remember the things that you have going for you, the things that are great. For instance, my family, we experienced some challenges in regards to COVID, but everyone's healthy in my family. Everyone's here in the house. My brother is here. My sister's back down in Texas, but I still talk to her as much as I can. We all still have our jobs. And the important thing is to remember that as tough as times may get, one thing that we will always have is each other. And that goes back to what I was talking earlier about today, about people, because that's the one thing that's always going to stand the test of time. It's not how much money you make. It's not what home you own. It's not what car you drive. Because as we can see via the quarantine, none of that really matters right now. All that matters is the people that you have around you.
Thank you so much for that. And whoever is listening, this Alex, you're great. Thank you for sharing your journey. I think whoever's going to listen to this will really benefit from your journey. So thank you again. Thank you for joining us, and please stay safe and stay healthy. Have a good one.
Thank you.